Recording again, and of course Daniel has a bit of a case study of sorts for a secured file management solution on the Office 365 platform. So Daniel, take it away.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining wherever you are joining from. So today in this session, what we're going to take a look at is everything about files. So whether that be OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, and hopefully at the end of the session there'll be some practical tips and tricks and things that you can start to implement or share inside your organization. Now, there's a lot of, I guess, a lot of confusion still, and a lot of unknowns about the way we're sharing content. And hopefully, during this session, we can outline, I guess, the main aspects to being able to work with your files more intelligently. We'll go through some new features and some really intelligent things that are coming out of the graph and being implemented into SharePoint and OneDrive and also Teams as well. Now, when working with organizations, then obviously everyone is working with files day in and day out constantly. Now, the goal here is for me to be able to I guess, give you back some time, save some time with some different ways and some practical ways that you can work with your files. Now, obviously, we work with them every day. Everybody does. So it really makes sense that we try and I guess work more effectively and more intelligently with those files. We've all got old habits, I guess, and even when transitioning to Office 365 or Microsoft 365, and when organizations are rolling out OneDrive, for example, or Teams, or SharePoint, we always tend to see that users are still using files and managing files in their own way. So they might be moving from a file share to OneDrive, to SharePoint, or to Teams, but we're still using the same concepts that we used to. So attaching files to emails or that type of thing, or even worse still, which I'm sure is still common, is different versions of files. So V1, V2, V1 changed by Mark, V1 changed by Daniel, that type of thing. So we're going to have a look at some ways in which we can start to move away from that. Now, also, a real common pain point that you or we hear, and you will hear as well over and over again, is being able to find documents, or you might have been working on a presentation 2 weeks ago or last week or even yesterday, and being able to find that document that you were working on without having to think about where that might have been stored. Because we might be working across lots of different teams, lots of different SharePoint sites. It might be in OneDrive, it might be in Teams, it might be in SharePoint. So having an easy way to be able to find those documents is really key to being able to ultimately save you time. All right. And the good thing about it is that Microsoft 365, it gives you is the platform to be able to deliver that for you. All right. It's doing all the hard work. We've got the graph. We've got some intelligent features and functionality that are coming out and are rolling out continuously. So it really does give you the platform to be able to do this. A lot of times, a lot of people aren't really aware of that type of functionality. So this is what we're trying to bring to you guys, bring to the community, and get the word or get some good use out of these features. Now, I've already touched on a couple of points and pain points about files. People not being able to remember where they are, and there is so much time that's being wasted around trying to find files in particular. So what we're going to go through is a few little tips and tricks on how we can more easily find them, using recent files functionality across different endpoints, but also in Microsoft Teams as well. There's a couple of pieces of functionality there specifically that are going to save you some time. Now, I've gone ahead, the content throughout this session is going to be a combination of pre-recorded videos and also some live demos. So the first thing we're going to touch on, and I think it's an underused part of 365 and something that's not really, well, in my experience, promoted a lot, and that's the start page of Office 365. So there's some really rich information that can be used by end users on that particular start page. A lot of times where I guess users, or when organizations are rolling this out, is that they might be starting, or they might auto load their intranet homepage, or people might be starting or in their day in Microsoft Teams, because that's loading when you log into your computer. So one of the things that I've found extremely useful for a lot of users is that Office 365 start page. And what you can do now is actually install that Office app as a universal web app onto your computer, and you can have that start page automatically there basically as an app on your computer. So what we're going to first take a look at is a little demo here. Now, Mark, I've got audio here, so if you can just let me make sure that audio is coming through as well. When I play this video. So what we're going to do here is have a look at the 365 start page, but also how to go about installing and adding that Office app and the value that provides. So I'm just going to play that now, and let's have.
Okay, let's turn our attention to what is sometimes one of the most underused experiences in Office 365, and it's something that does often get overlooked in when Office 365 is rolled out, and also when working with end users all around accessing content and their files, and that is the Office 365 start page. Now, as you can see on the screen, I'm on the start page here. Now, what I can see down there, and I really want to focus on the middle section here around our files. Now, you'll notice here that I've got a couple of tabs. I've got Recent, Pinned, Shared with Me, and Discover. And the three we're going to focus on are Recent, our Pinned, and Shared with Me. Now, the recent files here, again, using the power of the graph, what this is showing us here is any recent file that I've currently been working on. Now, a common question and a common pain point across all users is being able to find documents that they were last working on and finding them quickly. I cannot tell you how many countless hours are wasted during a week trying to find documents that you've been working on, trying to remember what location they were in. Was it in my OneDrive? Was it in a SharePoint site? Was it in Teams? Was it there? Was it there? So using this recent view here from the 365 start page provides a ton of value. Now you can see here that it doesn't matter where that file was located. So you can see here this is in SharePoint. You'll also notice here that this particular one's out of OneDrive. All right. So, and you'll see this one here is actually in Megan's OneDrive. So that's obviously a document that's been shared with me. All right. So it is a really good view to get your users used to using, and also for yourself to start utilizing. Now, there's only a few there that are listed, but we've got a show more option, and it also expands, and we can keep expanding if we need to. But one of the options down here is we can go more in OneDrive, and that's going to take me directly to my recent files in the OneDrive UI now. And I've got some more options, and I've got a longer list. I can do some searching, and it provides me with a ton more value. All right. Now, if I flick back over to the Office 365 start page, when I hover over a particular document, I've got a few options for me. You can see here that I've got the option to be able to add it to pinned. Now I'm just going to go through and add a couple to my pinned section here, because I know that I'm going to be working on these. I know I'm going to need quick access, let's just say for a week. All right, so we're working on these files. I know I'm going to be continually working on these throughout the week. Let's use the pinned option here. And what we'll see under this view here, under pinned, is that there's those 3 documents that I have pinned for myself. So now all I need to do is come to the pinned option here, and I've got access to these files. I can click them, I can open them, it's going to open up in the browser. All right, so when I click, there we go, I'm open in the browser. All right, I'm just going to flick back to the home page here. Now, another common thing as well is being able to open the file location, the full library or the location where that file is located, because there could be some associated files that we need to take a look at also. So from this view here, I can say click the 3 little dots, and remembering that there's always a context menu and a pop-up menu that appears whenever you see these dots, and I can open the direct file location of where that is located. In this case, it is in my OneDrive. All right, but if it was like this one here, where it's in SharePoint, and I open the file location, I'm going to be taken directly to that shared document library and the location where that file is stored. All right, another powerful little feature. Now, the other options that we've got here is the ability to share, copy links. We can download it. We can even remove it from the list if we need to. All right, but when I jump into pinned, again, there's the documents. I can now remove these from a pin. So when it comes time to, if I've finished on these documents, I can just remove them from there. Now, the other tab on the 365 start page that I think is extremely useful as well is the shared with me. So when we share documents, you're obviously getting the email invitations and the sharing invitations via your inbox. Now, we don't want to have to hunt around our inbox to find those sharing invites again. All right. So with this shared with me view here on the start page, I can quickly have a look at the documents. I remember that Megan shared that proposal template with me at some stage. I might have deleted the email, but I can come into here now, and here I've got the actual document that Megan has shared. I can now open that. And what you'll notice here is this document was actually sent and shared with me via Outlook on the web. All right. So what I can do here is I can actually open this document. It's actually going to open up the document, but it's going to open up the document and the email, so that you can see here that the email is on the right hand side. I've got the PowerPoint document here, and I've got the full context of how I received that document. Now, if I jump back into the start page here is, let's take a look now at another document. So we'll look at this document here. When I open this, I can see that I can open it in the browser, open in the desktop, or when I click on the document, it's going to open it up directly in the browser. And you'll notice across the top, I can have a look at where this file is located by clicking on the actual title, and you can see here that it's in the retail SharePoint site or Microsoft Team, and it's in the shared documents. All right, really, really handy couple of tabs on the Office 365 start page. Now, in addition to this, so that I don't have to, or you as a user or your end users don't need to open up your browser every time to access this, you can actually install the Office app, Windows 10 Universal Web App, onto your computer as well. So let's have a look at how we do that and the experience. So with this plus button, you'll notice that this is I'm in the Edge browser here. Works as well in Chrome. Now I can install Office. So when I click on this plus button, I can go and install Office. And now what you'll see is that I've got the 365 start page actually in basically an app on your computer. All right, so you can see here that I've got this. Now I'm just going to close this off, and I'm now going to add that Office app to my taskbar. All right, so you can see here I've got the Office app that's been recently added. If I right click that, I can now pin that to my taskbar, right? So I'm just going to close down the browser, this tab here. I'll leave my recent OneDrive open, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up the Office app here. So here we're open, nice and quick. As an end user, that makes it really easy for me to get back to my documents, because here I click it, there's the document I was working on, where's my pinned ones, there's the new Prospect Power App document that I need to work on. I can click that, it's going to open up. All right, so it's going to open up that document for me. Okay, now I clicked on that link, so that's opened up the actual link to the library of that location. But if I click on this part here, it's actually going to open up the document. All right, so I'm opening up the document. I'm back to where I was working. I don't have to go hunt for the document. I can just open up the Office app and I am away. Okay, really, really handy for me. Now, the other point I just wanted to make quickly is that with this shared with me option, if I choose more in OneDrive, what you'll notice is I'm taken directly to the shared tab of my OneDrive, and now I've got some even more functionality for me. All right, so I can now, for example, group all these documents by the person that had shared that document with me. All right, so I can say, right, Adele, I remember Adele shared that document with me. I can't remember where it was or when it was. I've lost the email. So here again, I've got the ability to group my shared with me documents, shared with you documents inside of the OneDrive UI, and it makes it a lot easier for me as a user, saves me a ton of time trying to hunt around for documents. I can quickly find those documents from this view.
Okay, so as we can see, the 365 start page, and in particular that Office app, does provide us with a lot of functionality there to be able to find those documents and access those documents without necessarily having to remember where those documents are. Now, currently what we're seeing, and you're probably in this situation as well, we're spending a lot more time inside of Microsoft Teams. So rather than having to switch context and jump out to OneDrive or jump out to SharePoint or jump out to the 365 start page, there are some things that that Microsoft inside of the Teams UI that when you're working with your files makes it really easy again for us to be able to access those files. And again, with Teams, and what I see with especially with the onboarding of Teams, these type of things aren't necessarily high priority. It's more around the conversations and the meetings and things like that. Now, files is a key component when you're doing your day-to-day work. So having the ability to access those files quickly and easily is really, really important. So let's take a look at, from a Teams perspective and working with your files in Teams, how that makes, there's a couple of aspects here that make it really easy for you to do that as well.
With more and more of us spending lots more time in Microsoft Teams, what's really important, especially from a productivity point of view and a time-saving point of view, is having the ability to stay in context, so stay inside the application that you're working in. So if we're in Microsoft Teams a lot of the time, then it makes sense that we don't need to leave that platform or leave that interface to be able to find information and find files. So there's a couple of different ways that we can do that in Teams. All right. So the first thing I'm going to take us through is the Files tab of Microsoft Teams. And again, something that I find a lot of users aren't using enough to be able to find documents. So let's just jump into Files. And what we'll see here, again, we've got our recent files. So this is, again, the similar, same look and the same recent files coming from the graph. as we saw in the Office 365 start page. All right, so same experience, and we've got the recent files. It doesn't matter where these files are located. You can see here I've got some in my OneDrive, I've got some from Teams channels, I've got some from SharePoint sites. So it aggregates everything with the use of the graph. Really handy. Now, the other option here is, which a lot of people don't realize, is that I can access my OneDrive directly from within Teams. All right, so from the Files tab, I can click on OneDrive, and here I've got my full OneDrive for Business without needing to leave the context of Microsoft Teams. I can navigate, I can open, I can select, and I can access those documents directly from here. Now, the other option here is Microsoft Teams, and here I've got the files that are allocated or stored in the teams that I'm a member of. So you can see here the location of all of these different files, and you can see where they're located. Okay, so the Files tab of Microsoft Teams, again, is another way and another time saver to work, work more intelligently with your files, and again, save you time in regards to trying to find your files, especially the files that you have been working on. Now, one of the commands that you can use also in the Microsoft Teams command bar up here is around files. So I'm just going to jump back into Teams, and I'm going to click up into the command bar. And if I go /files and hit enter, what we're going to see is a list of our recent files. All right, and you can see here that again, they're from different locations. It's aggregating. It's my recent files from OneDrive, from Teams, from wherever those files are located, and the file, whatever file I've been working on. All right. So again, another really handy little shortcut there, /files, and you can get to the get a listing of the files that you've recently accessed and worked on for quick, easy access again. All right. So there's through the Teams interface. Again, as I mentioned, lots and lots of us are now spending most of the day or a lot of the day inside of Teams to do our work. And without needing to leave the context of Teams, we can easily get to the files and access files without even thinking about where they're located via a couple of different means there.
So with Microsoft Teams obviously being a key component of people's day-to-day work, it's really important that we're able to save time and access those files when we need to as well. Now, one of the relatively new features that's rolling out at the moment is all around the hover cards. So whenever you see a file inside of a document library in OneDrive or in SharePoint, when you hover over that document, these what they call intelligent hover cards now provide us with a ton of information. So we might be having conversations in Teams around documents. We might be emailing or sharing those documents to different people. And being able to access all the information around that particular document becomes extremely handy. So we might be having a conversation with a couple of people. We might have shared it with somebody via Outlook, and being able to utilize the hover cards to provide you with that information and allow you even to go directly to the conversation that you're having in Teams or directly to the email becomes extremely handy. So you don't have to hunt around for that chat or that conversation you had with Sally around a particular proposal, or that email that you were having an email conversation around. So with these hover cards, what we can start to do is actually use them in a productive way and in an intelligent way, so that we are, again, saving time, because we don't need to go hunting around for things. So let's now take a look at, we're going to dive into a demo now all around the hover cards, and let's see how that can help improve your productivity and save you some time as well.
G'day everyone, let's take a look at how we can work more intelligently with our files in OneDrive for Business. Now, by leveraging the Microsoft Graph and OneDrive for Business, we can, and in particular our hover cards, we can be presented with, or you will be presented with, some really rich information that's going to help you work with your files a lot better. Now, in this scenario, I've been working with two other people working on this PowerPoint presentation all around our goals for the QT series. Now, when I hover over this file, you'll notice that I'm presented with a really nice and rich hover card experience on the right-hand side. Now, we can see that this file has had 13 views. I can see down the bottom here that 3 viewers have made up these 13 views. So I can see who has viewed this file. Now, what I want to draw your attention to is this middle component here. Now, this is really powerful because we can be having conversations or emails, conversations around this document, and rather than us having to think about where we were having those conversations, you can see here that we're presented with those directly on this hover card. So you can see here that I've got 2 Teams conversations that we're having around this document. You can see that I'm having one here with Nesta and Megan, and I'm also having a separate one here with Adele. But you'll also notice here that I've got an email message where I had shared this document with Megan. So let's jump in and have a look at what that experience is like. So if I needed to get back to that conversation, I know I was having one with Adele around reviewing this. I can jump into my OneDrive. I can hover over this document. I can then click on this conversation that says Teams, and it's going to open up that chat that I was having with Adele straight away, so straight into that conversation, and I can continue on from where I left off. All right, really, really powerful experience there. Now, the same thing happens if I just jump back into the OneDrive here and I hover over the add goals again, and I click on the next Teams message that I was having in a different conversation. All right, that's going to take me directly to that conversation as well. And you can see here, that's where I've shared this PowerPoint presentation. All right, so from within that hover card, I can get back to and have a look at every activity that has been happening around that particular document, all right, without even thinking about having to go to Teams or to Outlook or anywhere like that. I can just jump into OneDrive using the new hover card experience, and I've got that rich information that's presented to me and provided to me via the graph. Now, another thing that I want to draw your attention to, especially around Word documents. Now, when I hover over a Word document that's been shared as well, what we'll see here is the similar experience here where we've got our conversations. And another thing that we do have is another type of experience where we can take a look inside that document. All right, and you'll notice here that in this particular case, we've got a new section that's called At a Glance. Now, we haven't added anything to this document. We haven't done anything to it. What's happened is that this has been pulled out the contents of the document. So we can have a quick look and see what this document is about. Now, what's interesting here is that we can edit this at a glance as well. So if I go to edit this at a glance, I can also add some custom content in here. Right, I can remove some content, so this might not be that accurate, so I can remove some content here, but I can also add this, and I'll just add an example here, and we can also then add that to the card, and it's going to appear over when I hover over that document. It's going to appear in that at a glance section. Okay, once that gets picked up. So there's a really a powerful tool there so that we can hover over documents and have a quick look inside those. All right, so there's a couple of really good and powerful features there that that you should really take a look at, and really does help you work more intelligently with your files. It's going to save you time because you don't need to think about, especially when you're starting to share documents and have conversations in Teams, it means that you don't have to think about where those conversations were happening. All right, we can use the hover card here and we can go directly to that conversation. Okay, all about intelligent files, working with your files more intelligently out of OneDrive. In this case, we took a look at the hover cards.
Okay, so as you can see, that experience that's provided and coming to the file experience, that rich file experience inside of OneDrive and also SharePoint, means that you can now see that everything is being drawn into a single location all around a particular file, and drawing in those and making available those different endpoints that you might be working around or communicating around those files with. Now, the next thing I want to take a look at and walk through is a new feature that's coming, that has been released to OneDrive for Business. Now, this scenario here is all around, and we see this a lot, where you need to request some files or gather some files from people, whether that be inside your organization or even outside your organization, around, it could be for a proposal. So you need to be requesting a proposal off, let's say 10 vendors or something like that, or even internally. It might be time for performance reviews, where all the staff need to email you or send you their performance reviews. Now, rather than having to receive those emails with all those attachments and then you having to manage all those attachments and save them into specific locations, rename the files more than likely, that's a lot of overhead for people to manage, right? So this request files feature and functionality out of OneDrive for Business means that we can create a folder inside of our OneDrive, and we can then request files via an email invitation, and those users can then upload those files into that folder that's living in your OneDrive for Business, which means that I don't have to worry about any of those attachments coming via email. It's all automatically done and managed in my OneDrive. Now, and a really good thing that we'll see in a minute is that it also prefixes those file names with the person's name that you're sharing it with. All right, it will save you. When people have started to use this, they are amazed at how much time it's actually saved them in collating all that information. All right, so let's dive in and have a look at that feature and how that works out of your OneDrive and how much time that's going to save you.
Let's now turn our attention to another common use case where you might need to gather files or request files from a number of different people. Now, traditionally, this has been done via email, obviously, so you would send out an email, whether individually or to a group, that is maybe requesting them their performance reviews, or it could be to request quotes or other type of scenarios. And what would normally happen is that users would then email you back with an attachment to with the file. You would then need to go through and sort and save and do all that type of thing from a file management point of view. Let's now take a look at how we can work more intelligently in that scenario by using the new a newish feature in OneDrive called the request files feature. So you can see here that I'm in my OneDrive, and the first thing I'm going to do is just create a new folder, and I'm just going to call it requested files, and we're going to create that folder first. Now I'm going to select that folder now, and you'll see that I've got the option here in the ribbon to request files. So I'm just going to click request files, and I'm going to name this performance reviews. All right, and I'm going to go next. Now what's going to happen is I've got the ability to copy this link, or I can send this link directly via email. Now in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it via email in this scenario, and I'm going to send it to an external user, and that's a Gmail account. And I'm going to add another user here, which is an internal person, called Megan, and I'm going to just add a little message. Please submit your reviews. And I'm going to now send that to those two people. Now, on the flip side of that, let's now take a look at what the experience is like for those users that need to upload those files or add those files. All right, so I'm just going to now drag across the Gmail user here, and you'll notice that this is what happens. So you'll see that they receive an email that says that Alex has requested your performance review, and I can now upload those files. So when I go through this process, I'm going to click on upload files, and I'm just going to drag the window across that pops up, and this is the window that pops up for that user. And what now that user can do is select their files, and we can see that I can now select my files. So I'm just going to jump in and grab some documents here, and I'll just choose this Word document. Now what we can do here is, as the end user, I can now put in my first and last name. So I'm just going to put in Daniel Anderson here, and we're now going to upload that file, and there we go, we're done. If I needed to upload more, I can upload more. Now let's now take a look at what Megan sees in her scenario. So I'm just going to open up her Outlook here, and she will also have an email that is requesting files from her. All right, so here we go. Here you can see that Alex's is requesting files. So I'm just going to go through that process again, and we're going to select the files. Same thing, I'm just going to choose a different file here, and let's now do that as well. And we're going to now upload that. So we've now got two users that have uploaded their files. Now let's just jump back to Alex's window here, and let's now jump into this folder. And what we'll notice here is the reason that it is a good idea for the end users now to put in their first and last name is that we now have an easy way to determine who this file belongs to. All right, so you can see here that the file's been prefixed with that user's name. It makes it really easy for us to sort through those files, especially if you're requesting a lot of files from a lot of people. So using that request files feature out of your OneDrive is going to save you a ton of time. It makes sense. Rather than emailing out the email and requesting files via email and attachments, and then having to manage and save those into locations, this is all done for you automatically. Create a folder inside your OneDrive, use the request files feature. Nice and easy for the end user then to be able to submit those files and upload those files. The end users aren't able to see anybody else's files either, so that's another bonus. All right, but you as the requester are able to see everybody's files. All right, so that's going to save you a ton of time. If you're in the position of requesting files of people, then that request files functionality out of your OneDrive is going to save you a lot of time. Makes sense. It's easier. You've got access to your files 24/7, and it's just an intelligent way of managing those files.
Okay, so as you can see, a couple of features that we've gone through and functionality that we've gone through there is going to help you manage your files a lot better when you are moving to Office 365 and using SharePoint and OneDrive. Now, we're going to now move into all about the secure sharing side of things. So a lot of times I find that users are still using attachments because of their, I guess, lack of knowledge or lack of awareness, or even sometimes they're a bit hesitant to share because of the security around sharing documents if they're not giving the right level of access to those documents? Are they opening it up to people they shouldn't be? Are they using the right options? That type of thing. Now, with sharing out of either SharePoint or OneDrive, there's actually 4 options that you can choose from. Now, this could be causing people a little bit of an issue because they don't understand what each level of security is associated to each level. So we need to ensure that we are giving the right message, and also that the end users understand what those different options are. And once we get a handle on that, then it absolutely will change the way that you manage your documents, right? It's going to mean that the documents are staying where they are. We don't need to send those attachments, different versions, all of that type of thing. So it's going to save you some time, and also the headaches around different documents coming backwards and forwards. So as I said, there's 4 options that we choose from. There's anyone with a link. There's people in your company with the link already, people with existing access, and also specific people. We'll take a little bit of a look at those in just a second, but these options might vary and might be different in your organization depending on the settings that are set by your admins. So a lot of times, again, anyone with this link might be disabled. Anyone is like the anonymous option. So that might be disabled. It might be grayed out, but it depends on your admin settings. Now, with the anyone link, it gives access to anyone who receives that link. So whether they receive that directly from, if I'm sharing it with you, directly from myself, or that person can then forward that link on to other people as well. So a lot of times people are a bit hesitant in using that, but there are some other ways, there's some other settings that you can see on the screen there that you can do to control that. So we can disallow editing, we can set an expiry date, we can also set a password on that, and when it's not allowed to edit, you can also block the download. And a recent change in that is that now works with files that aren't Office files. So it could be PDF documents or AutoCAD files or whatever the case may be. You can also block the download of those files. The next one is the option for people in your company with the link. Now that's only going to give access to people inside your organization. Okay, so whether they receive it directly or it's forwarded by somebody else. Now, people with existing access, this is more for if you've shared something with somebody already and they've lost it, or they can't remember, or they need access to it again, they need that link again. You can use this option here if you need to send them a link in addition to the initial link that you already sent. Now, the most secure one at this point is the specific people. Now, this is where it only gives access to the users that you specify, all right? And other people can't then forward that link on, all right? So if they do, then that link is not going to work for them, all right? So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to open up a machine. We're just going to have a look at the scenarios here. And the good thing about what Microsoft have done here is that the endpoints, regardless of where you share your documents from, you get the same experience. So you can see here I'm in my OneDrive for Business. I'm on the browser. If I select a document and I hit share, I get the common sharing dialog box with all those options. So it doesn't matter where we share those files from. So we've got that option up here, but we've also got the share icon here. Again, we've got the same user interface and the same dialog box. Now, we were talking before about the Office 365 start page. So again, if I'm wanting to share this document from within this start page here, I get the exact same experience. So from an end user side of things, we're familiar. As soon as you learn and as soon as your users understand how to share, they understand how to share and can share from multiple different locations, wherever those files are stored, whether that be SharePoint or OneDrive. They can share those documents with the same user interface that they're familiar with across the board. Now, it also means that if I'm inside of a document, in this case, I'm in a document on the web, in Word Online, I've also got this share button up the top right-hand corner. And again, familiar, looks the same dialog box, same options, and it's nice and easy to use. Now, what let's say that I'm also in the desktop app. So we're going to open up Word, the application that's installed on your computer. Again, we've got the familiar share button up the top right-hand corner. And again, I'm presented with that same dialog box. So it's uniform across every single endpoint that you need to share. And that makes it really good from a user experience point of view. Okay. Now, a lot of times we are also on the go. So if I'm just going to drag this across now, hopefully. And if we're on the go and on our mobile, the good thing about this is also that the same experience applies on your mobile device. So in this case here, we're going to be on a mobile device inside of OneDrive for Business and also inside the Office app as well. Maybe. All right, so let's take a look here. What we're doing here is we're inside the OneDrive, we're selecting a file, the three dots, we're going to hit share. And again, we're presented with the familiar sharing dialog box there, same as what you were used to in the browser or on the desktop as well. All right, so really, really powerful there. From an end user point of view, again, that experience makes it really easy for users to be able to share with a common user interface there. So you can see there that we've just shared that document with that same UI. Now, this is the Office app that you can download from your App Store. Same thing here. If I'm sharing a document, it's going to now also present me with that same UI. All right, so that's something that's really important from an end user side. I can set a password. I can set an expiry date even from the mobile app when I'm using that anyone with this link, and that provides some additional security. All right, so nice and simplified UI across every single endpoint, whether that be mobile or with on your desktop. A common question as well is, once you start using and sharing documents, who have you actually shared those documents with? So it could be 3 months down the track, 6 months down the track, and you've shared hundreds of documents. How do we go about finding out who we have shared all these documents with? Now, in OneDrive for Business now, we've got the ability and the option to be able to generate a report, a sharing report from OneDrive, and it generates an Excel spreadsheet for us. So from within OneDrive, in the top right-hand corner, when we click on the settings icon, we can also now go to OneDrive settings. Now, inside OneDrive settings, there's an option under more settings to be able to run a sharing report. Now, first of all, we need to select a folder in our OneDrive to store that report. Once we've chosen that, it's going to run that and generate that report automatically for us. And if we jump back into our reports folder here, we'll see that there's a CSV file now that's been automatically generated for me as an end user. And when I open that, I've got a lot of information provided to me about what I have shared, in this case, out of my OneDrive for Business. So we can see here the full path. We can see what permissions I've set on those files. I can see who I've shared it with, but I can also see whether it's been an internal person, or I can also determine whether it's been externally shared. So you can see there's the external option there as well. All right, so that's a really, again, a really powerful feature there for us to I guess, have a history and have an awareness of what files I have shared with people either inside or outside my organization. All right. So you can run that from your OneDrive for Business. Okay. Now, Mark, I might end that there. And have there any questions that have been coming through as yet?
Yeah, well, this might be a good time to call out. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat of this this Teams channel, or you can also unmute yourself right now and perhaps ask a question.
Yeah, if not, I've got another little slide here that that I'll work through as well if nobody's got any questions right this second.
I noticed myself the request files feature of OneDrive that you showed. That's quite cool. I thought I knew OneDrive reasonably well, and not realizing that there's that request files capability. You just send a to an email address, someone with a link, and suddenly files appear in your OneDrive. That's quite a cool little feature.
Yeah, good thing about it is you get it all prefixed as well, so you can sort and you can the file names aren't all the same, which is really handy from a requestor point of view as well.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, there was one other question that I had for you, and it's a bit of a, I guess, your own perception question more than anything else. How good? I think you talked us through some of the features of I think the SharePoint homepage was where it was at. The relevance of those files that are surfaced up there, particularly the Discover tab. How good is that relevance? Does it hit the mark, or do you find there's some delay, for example? Or?
Yeah, look, for me personally, I don't. Well, to be honest, I don't use that a lot. But I do know and have worked with different departments where it is extremely relevant. So if I'm in a large HR team or even a media team, to discover what the team is working on or what others are working on around me, they might be working on different promotions or things like that. It's in that scenario, it has been extremely useful and is extremely relevant to those people. But it's kind of it depends on the type of role that you're in. I reckon that to whether that is a highly used feature or not.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
awesome. Cool.
Right, so for those,
we've got any other questions, but
nothing there. So for those that are still there, this will take 2 minutes before we hand over to. I see Knut's in the call, so he's eagerly awaiting his presentation, no doubt. So let's just have a look now at this cool little feature as well, where you could be working on a PowerPoint presentation, and you need to send, rather than sending that whole presentation, you can actually now just send a link to a particular slide. So we'll jump in and just have a quick look at that.
What we're going to take a look at here is how we can work more effectively with our PowerPoint presentations in this case. So I'm putting together a PowerPoint presentation of currently working with 3 other people around this particular PowerPoint presentation. Now, there's one particular slide in this PowerPoint presentation that I need some executive input on. Now, they haven't got access, and I haven't shared this previously with them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up this PowerPoint deck, and it's this second slide that that I'm going to need some executive input on. I don't want to send them the whole deck. I want to send them directly to this slide. So one of the things and the powerful things that we can do inside of PowerPoint here, and this also relates to the ease at which we can share documents now and work more effectively with them, and the experience is carried across different endpoints, is what we can do here is I can right-click the slide, click link to slide, and I'm presented with that familiar sharing dialog box. When I click on the options, I've got the same options presented to me as if I was sharing a whole document out of my OneDrive or SharePoint. All right, so it makes it nice and easy and a similar UI and the same UI to the end user. Now, I'm going to leave it with people in Contoso, and I'm going to apply this. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this link. Now I'm going to open up Teams and I'm going to start a new chat. Now I'm going to start a new chat with Grady, and what I'm going to do here is I need some input here. Can you please provide some input here? And I'm going to paste in that link that I've just copied. So there it is there, okay? And I'm going to send that across to Grady. Now, in Grady's Teams, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to drag his window across, and there's his window. Now, what we can see here is I've got the pop-up message from Alex. I've got the red option here, and what we've got here is the chat, and here's the direct link here. So when I click on this, what's going to happen now is it's going to open up that PowerPoint document, but you can see how this has now opened up directly to slide number 2. All right, really, really efficient, especially when you're starting to build out, in this case, PowerPoint decks. You can send somebody directly to that slide that you want them to take a look at. All right, and now what Grady can do is jump back in here and we can start that conversation. This looks great. All good to go. So even when he hasn't had access to the entire document before, I can just use the right-click option in PowerPoint, and I can go directly and direct any user to that particular slide. Really, really powerful, really, really efficient, intelligent way of working with your files, and you can direct them directly where they need to go.
There we go, and I am done. So hopefully that gives everybody a few takeaways that you can take into your day-to-day work. Some different ways that you can work with your files, easy access, sharing. We've got a good understanding of how we can share and the permissions around that. So thanks everybody. A couple of places you can find me on. If you've got any further questions, just hit me up on those channels. And thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Daniel, for that. Of course, you are watching Valo Fest 2020, the APAC edition. And next up, for what I'm going to do is just finish up the recording of that session.